as they say, down on the plains. And War Eagle is hosting a regional this weekend, as this is the Auburn Regional Preview Show, as Auburn will welcome in North Carolina State, Stetson, and Central Connecticut State. Andy Burcham, the voice of the Auburn Tigers, will join us on the other side of this open to break down the Auburn Tigers in the Auburn Regional right now on the Stingray Show.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
And with that, we want to welcome you inside the Auburn Regional Preview Show. And for those of you that are wondering which matchup that Auburn is paired with, they are paired with the Coastal Carolina Regional, which includes Coastal Carolina, Florida, East Carolina, and Fairfield. So if Auburn take care of business this weekend, they will be moving on and facing in the Supers either Coastal Carolina, Florida, East Carolina, or Fairfield. And to break down both regionals and especially the Auburn Regional, here is our good friend and the voice of the Auburn Tigers, Mr. Andy Burcham. Andy, how are things with you as we have once again postseason baseball in Auburn, Alabama?
Well, it's good to be back in postseason. A year ago, Auburn didn't even make the SEC tournament and suffered through a really tough season. But that team won its last two weekends in the SEC, one at Missouri and then one at home against Alabama. And talking with Parker Carlson, one of Auburn's team captains this year, after the announcement on Monday, he said, I don't think this season happens without those last two weekends and the way last season ended for this Auburn ball club. And Auburn carried that momentum in, and it did not lose a weekend series until it went to Georgia, was swept at Georgia. But boy, it has just been so very good this season. The number 4 national seed coming into this NCAA tournament. Auburn has only been a national seed one time before, and that was in 2003. Yes. So it's pretty high cotton for this Auburn ball club. It's on the other hand, Auburn is making history this season, as it will be hosting the third time in 4 years. That's never happened before, and tickets have been flying off the shelves. I mean, all of the reserved tickets are sold for the weekend. All of the parking is sold. I don't even know where I'm parking, by the way, on Friday for the series. I'll figure that out. But Auburn set an attendance record this season with the new additions, the 984 Club and the Broadway Club and the War Eagle Wall and all of the amenities. And I expect that we're going to see huge crowds on hand for this weekend and the NCAA Regional. And personally, I'm glad to be home. I'm glad we're not traveling. Auburn was on the road for the last 2 weekends at the SEC tournament. Before that at Ole Miss. So it'll be good to be home, hopefully, for 2 straight weekends here in the regional and the super regional.
Andy, with you being the voice of the Auburn Tigers, they should have you a designated parking spot at every venue that you call down there at Auburn. Come on.
No, Stephen, they should have a limo service. Forgive me. I don't know my ancient architect, but one of those golden chariots to walk you in on, where the guys walk you in on their shoulders.
Oh my gosh! My wife would be slapping both of you right now for putting that.
They're
in my
feeding her
mind.
grapes. They're feeding her grapes. She's right next to you.
Okay, then she's fine with that then.
So, Andy, if you would briefly recap the game for Auburn that they had there in Hoover.
You know, it was an incredibly well-pitched game on both sides between Auburn and Texas A&M. And A&M got one swing on Cam Tilley, the home run by the leadoff man, the 3-run homer, and that's it. Auburn hit 2 solo home runs in that game, Snow and Steele. And Auburn obviously had the tying run at the plate in the 9th inning and just could not bring that run home for Auburn. While it was a disappointing day for Auburn, And I know Auburn wanted to make a deeper run in the SEC
Yes.
tournament. It allowed Auburn to get back. It allowed Auburn to kind of reset to get ready. It allowed Samuel Dutton and Christian Chatterton a weekend to fine tune and now get ready for the NCAA tournament. So, it was disappointing that team was disappointed that it was bounced last Thursday in the SEC tournament. But in looking forward, Butch Thompson and his staff have had an opportunity now to reset as it gets ready for the NCAA tournament, and I think that certainly helps, especially from a pitching perspective. A weekend where you can rest some guys, fine tune some guys, especially Dutton and Chatterton, and get them ready for the NCAA tournament starting Friday at 6 against Central Connecticut State.
Andy, that was going to be one of my questions I was going to ask. I've been asking all of our guests this question. Some of the regionals, some of the hosts choose to play the early game there in the day and not play the nightcap. They want the extra rest, or they're worried about rain, is where they can get even more rest. Some teams choose to play the late game to make sure they have a packed out house, the home field advantage. Any reasoning of why Auburn picked their times? And what's the weather going to look like there this weekend?
Yeah, that's a good question, Heath, and I'm not certain. I think we may be dodging some raindrops this weekend on the plains, but I do believe this. With the crowds that Auburn has had this season, record-setting crowds, not only for a full season, but weekend series and individual games as well, both on the weekends and in the midweek. And those have all come with the late starting time. I think, one, this Auburn Ball Club plays well to that big crowd, and two, it gives the Auburn family and those that Auburn are playing a better opportunity. It's after work hours, and so that's why Auburn, I think, is playing that 6:00 game on Friday. And I've seen it before where Auburn played the early game and you got a little more time to rest up for that second ball game. But I think Auburn wants the stage on Friday. And if Auburn wins that game, then it plays even later on Saturday. It's 6:00 on Friday. The winner's bracket game won't begin until 8:00 on Saturday night. So I think that's the reason that Auburn is playing that 6:00 game, just for the big crowd here at Plainsman Park.
So, Andy, looking at the weather, Friday, 70% chance of thunderstorms. Friday night, mostly clear with a low of 58 degrees.
I'll bring sleeves to the ballpark
Yes.
then.
Andy, don't go buy a lottery ticket.
and-
You spend all your good fortune on good weather.
Right. And goodness, I'll take that weather. And it may push back the start time or may delay some of that first game that starts at 1 between Stetson and North Carolina State. But it looks like that 6:00 game between Auburn and Central Connecticut State is in good shape right now. But listen, what is an NCAA regional? What is an SEC tournament without
Yes.
weather? I mean, it's just what you're used to at this time of the year. And the good thing for Auburn is it takes place at Plainsman Park.
So, Andy, if you would go ahead and break down that first game for us, Stetson 40-20 versus North Carolina State, who comes in with a record of 33 wins and 19 losses at 1 p.m. Friday in Auburn.
Well, these are two teams that are used to being in the NCAA tournament. Elliott Avant has been at North Carolina State forever. When Auburn hosted the 2003 regional, the last time that Auburn was the number 4 seed in an NCAA tournament, Elliott Avant was the head coach at North Carolina State. When Auburn went to North Carolina State in 2018 and won that regional, Elliott Avant was the head coach. Scott Foxhall, who is in charge of player development at Auburn, was his pitching coach in 2018. So this is a North Carolina State program that is year in and year out an NCAA tournament team, and typically a team that pitches very, very well. Ryan Maron, I hope I'm getting that name right. One of their starters is 7-3. Dominic Fritton is 5-4. Heath Andrews is 4-3. That's their 3 weekend guys. Between the 3 of them, 13 starts, 15 starts, and 13 starts. So, I mean, that's the 3 guys you're going to see on the weekend for North Carolina State. For Stetson, Stetson is a team that has put together back-to-back 40-win seasons. As a matter of fact, Auburn has some history with Stetson. In Hal Baird's final year as Auburn's head coach, Auburn played in the Georgia Tech Regional, and Stetson beat Auburn in the first round. So Auburn has some history now, albeit not recent, but the Hatters are again a team that you see in the NCAA tournament just about every year. So I think that first game will be fascinating to watch. And we'll see what comes out of that game between North Carolina State and Stetson. I mean, as an ERA, North Carolina State has a team ERA of 4.89. They're hitting as a team 290 on the season with 63 home runs. So that's going to be a fascinating first game of this tournament. And I love being in the position to be able to watch that first game and scout who Auburn's second opponent is going to be in the tournament. Whether you're playing, hopefully you're playing in that winners bracket game on Saturday night at 8:00, or whether you're playing in that 2:00 game. At least you get an idea what you're going to be seeing in that one. So North Carolina State is a higher seeded team, but I think the Stetson Ball Club is very, very good coming in with 40 wins.
Andy, I've been asking all my guests this week, all of our guests this week, going into the regionals, and I'll use Georgia as an example. Georgia has struggled with left-handed pitching all season long. I got a feeling they'll see a steady diet of left-handed pitching there in their regional. That could be something that keeps Georgia at home. What is one weakness or something that could keep Auburn at home or make them stumble? What's something that they've kind of had a problem with here down the stretch?
Well, here's the thing about this Auburn Ball Club. It went 7-11 on the road this year. That included sweeps at the hands of Georgia and Texas, and losing 2 out of 3 to Ole Miss in the last weekend of the season. At home, Auburn is 25-6 this season, and that includes sweeps of LSU and South Carolina. Auburn has been a very, very good home team. If there is one thing that of late has tripped up the Tigers, and this is going to sound familiar to you, Heath, it's left-handed starters. And Auburn has seen some very good left-handed starters this season. Elliott at Ole Miss in the first game at Ole Miss was as dominating as a starter as any pitcher that I saw this season. They saw the outstanding left-hander from Tennessee, albeit for 1 inning on the Friday game, and then he came back and closed the second game of that series at Tennessee. And he will be a first-round pick. He'll be one of the top 5 picks in the NCAA or in the pro baseball draft coming up. So if there has been one thing of late, it has been lefties. Auburn can use a lot of lefties in its lineup. Auburn's best hitters are left-handers in this lineup with Ike Irish and Cooper McMurray and Chase Fralick. So that has been a bit of a sticking point for this Auburn team. And if Auburn does face North Carolina State on Saturday, they're likely to see another left-handed starter, from what I gather. I have not seen any of the rotations set for any of the 4 teams that are coming in, including Auburn, at this point. We'll probably learn that tomorrow. All 4 teams practice at Plainsman Park tomorrow on Thursday, and then they have their press conferences, and I think at that point, I know we'll learn Auburn's rotation at this point. Does Auburn go with Samuel Dutton, who has been the Friday night stud for the Tigers this season? Do they hold him for the Saturday game? Hopefully that winners bracket game on Saturday. Do they go with Cam Tilley on Friday? Do they go with Christian Chatterton on Friday? I could see a case, Heath, for all of those at this point. And we'll just have to wait and see. But I've not seen a rotation for any of the 4 teams yet. Probably we'll learn a little bit more about that tomorrow at the press conferences.
Andy, the one fun question I really enjoy asking all of our guests as we head into regionals is, who is one hitter and one pitcher for Auburn that they could be a weekend guy, they could be a midweek guy, they could be a bullpen guy for pitcher. As far as a hitter, they could be in the bottom third, they could be a platoon player or a freshman getting hot, seeing a little bit more playing time. But who is one pitcher and one hitter that, if they get hot, could help carry Auburn to Omaha?
Yeah.
Who would that be if you had to guess?
And you need that at this time of
You
the
have to
year.
have it.
I mean, when Auburn went in 2022, they got hot with both pitching and hitting, and that team carried it through to Omaha and Auburn's last World Series team. It's hard for me not to say Ike Irish at this point is the hitter, because he hit .352 this season. He led Auburn with 16 homers and 52 runs batted in. He hit in SEC road games this year. And I know Auburn's not going to play on the road until it gets to Omaha. Hopefully it does. He hit .454 in SEC road games this year. .454 in SEC road games. And that includes Georgia. That includes Kentucky. That includes Texas. That includes Ole Miss.
That's a lot of tough pitching.
.454 and double-digit home runs on the road in the Southeastern Conference. I can't get past Ike Irish at this point for this Auburn ball club. Here's another guy, though. Can I add one more on the offensive side, Heath? All right, good. We've got a little time here. Chris Rembert will be, I think, a freshman All-American for Auburn. Second baseman for the Tigers, second baseman for the most part. He has played right field for Auburn as well. When they want to get more of their lefties or righties in the lineup, they can move somebody else in at second base and move Rembert to the outfield for Auburn. Hit 349 for Auburn this season as a true freshman with 10 homers and 40 runs batted in. He has speed. The kid does not look like a freshman physically. I mean, he is put together and just has that factor. The moment's not too big. You know who I compare him to? To Hyde Pettiford on the Auburn basketball team. There's another outstanding freshman right now who's deciding whether he's going to stay in the NBA draft or come back to Auburn. But those two guys, to me, even as true freshmen, big ball games, big settings, was not too big for those two. So Irish and Rembert. And let me give you one more freshman for Auburn, and we'll see him probably down near the bottom of the lineup, and that's Chase Fralick.
Okay.
Auburn's left-handed hitting catcher who hit .339. So I'm giving you the top three hitters right now in Auburn's stats. But Fralick is a fascinating story. I've not talked about it with you guys yet on the Stingray Show. He was a premier high school tennis player. He had more than 60 college offers to play college tennis, including Auburn had offered him to play. Big kid. He's 6'2". I mean, he would be a very physical tennis player. And his father is in the business of setting up these tournaments all over the country. But he also played baseball. And he was playing in his last travel summer tournament. Another member of that team is a pitcher, and I don't have his name right in front of me, that went to Mississippi State that throws 95. So college scouts were coming to watch the pitcher at the end of the summer, 2 summers ago. Carl Nonemaker, who is Auburn's recruiting coordinator, was among those. Well, on this day, Chase Fralick was the catcher in this game, went 4 for 4 and hit 2 home runs. With all of these others that were there to see this pitcher, he has perhaps the best game that he's ever had. And all of a sudden, not only were the tennis coaches coming after him on the college level, so were the baseball coaches. And he chose to come to Auburn as a freshman All-SEC, likely to be another freshman All-American, calls every game for Auburn, calls every pitch for Auburn as a true freshman.
Wow.
So those are 3 guys there. Among the pitchers, and when you were talking about a guy that has been a weekend guy or or a week or a midweek guy. The definition of that for Auburn is Christian Chatterton, who, by the way, is another freshman. This is the best freshman class Auburn's had maybe ever, because one, they all came to Auburn. None of them went to the draft, and they had
And
opportunities.
next year's NIL deal will be the greatest ever too for Auburn.
Well, it likely is, yes. But Christian is a young man that hails from the state of Alabama, was highly thought of coming out of high school, was Auburn's Sunday guy at the start of the season, and beat Oregon State, as a matter of fact, in the tournament down in Arlington, Texas, an Oregon State team that's a national seed, by the way. And then all of a sudden, once we got into Southeastern Conference play, he had trouble locating his changeup. So Auburn took him out of the rotation, put him as the midweek guy, and he found his changeup and helped beat Georgia Tech twice, beat Jacksonville State. Although he did not get the decisions in those games, he was all of a sudden very, very effective for Auburn. Auburn moved him back into the rotation at Tennessee, and he has been Auburn's Saturday guy since. So that to me, he has to perform well. Sam Dutton, as mentioned earlier, has been Auburn's Friday guy. Now, whether he starts the Friday game here, I'm not sure. We'll learn that tomorrow. Grew up in Southside in the Birmingham area. His brother, Andrew, played at Birmingham Southern before that college closed. Andrew has been the first base coach for Auburn all season. Got one swing this year. One swing. And against Jacksonville State, hit a home run.
Beautiful.
Great
phenomenal
story.
I love the video of it too.
So, but Sam was at LSU for a couple of years, primarily used as a relief piece. Came to Auburn in the transfer portal, and has been Auburn's Friday night guy all season long, and his second team All SEC. Now, his last two starts have not been his best, and that's why I think not playing at the SEC tournament and giving him another weekend of rest and refinement, I hope that helps Samuel Dutton this weekend. So there's two for you. And then another intriguing story for Auburn is the guy that has turned into Auburn's closer, kind of by default, and that's Ryan Hetzler, who transferred in from Cal Baptist, where he was phenomenal, but that's Cal Baptist. That's not the SEC. But Hetzler is 2-0, a 3.98 ERA, and 7 saves for Auburn, and has the best mustache on the team. Remember the old cartoons? Was it Dick Dastardly?
Yeah.
Well, he has one of those mustaches. That's what I'm not even sure he even knows who that character is, but that's what it reminds me of. And he's a guy that in Auburn's last win at Ole Miss, the final game of the regular season, had not pitched in the first 2 games of that weekend. And Auburn got into some trouble, and Auburn, he came in the 6th inning and pitched the last 4 innings for Auburn. A 4-inning win for Hetzler. And so he's a guy that has been very good in short stints, but you hope you don't have to go to him for a long outing like that, because that would basically take him out of any other game on a regional or super regional weekend. There's 2 pitchers for you and 3 hitters for Auburn that I think have to be performing well for this Auburn ball club.
So, Andy, looking forward to the super regional round, Auburn matches up with the Coastal Carolina Regional that has Coastal Carolina, Florida, East Carolina, and Fairfield. What do you think about that regional, and who do you think Auburn could ultimately face in the next round?
Well, that's a good regional, guys. That's a really good regional. I mean, we're talking at least 3 of those 4 that are typically host sites year in and year out in the NCAA tournament when you add East Carolina to that mix. I think of those teams, I mean, Coastal Carolina dominated its conference through the year. I mean, was outstanding all year. And it's no big surprise that the Chanticleers are hosting The fact that Florida is not hosting is a surprise, and I'm not saying that the NCAA selection committee made a mistake. But I don't think there's anybody that in the preseason thought Florida would be on the road in the NCAA tournament and would have to make a run at the end of the season just to get in the NCAA tournament. But the Gators have done just that. And I'm not sure there are many teams, maybe outside of Vanderbilt, that have played a lot better than this Florida team in the second half, maybe the last third of the Southeastern Conference season. I would expect that coming out of that regional, the heavy favorites are the host team, Coastal Carolina and Florida. I won't be surprised, obviously, with either of those teams to make it out of that regional. And if it is Auburn, they'll be coming to the Plains. Guys, this is historic time for Auburn. 3 out of 4 years to host a regional. That's never happened in Auburn. The fact that Auburn hosted in 22 and 23, Auburn had never hosted in back-to-back years in the NCAA tournament. And if Auburn is fortunate enough to play well enough to win this weekend and advance, it will host its first ever super regional at Plainsman Park. Auburn's only been in this situation in this position twice, 2003 and this year, where if it won, it knew it would host a super region. Now there have been some other years where had they won the regional they were playing in, they would have hosted. But Auburn is assured that if it wins this regional this weekend, it hosts a super regional next weekend. And it's hard not to look at what that could be, but I can't even imagine what the atmosphere around this ballpark will be if Auburn does host a super regional next weekend. I hope I get that opportunity to call a super regional game at Plainsman Park.
So, Andy, thank you. This has been an absolute blast. As we walk out the door, the final thing, you have covered this Auburn team all season long. What is the ceiling for this Auburn Tiger baseball team, in your opinion?
This is an Auburn team that very easily, if it plays to its standards, and remember, Auburn would be playing at home for 2 straight weekends, but right now it's 25-6. This is definitely an Omaha ball club at this point. It has to get good pitching. It has to get good starting pitching. And I'll say that about any Auburn team in any regional or super regional. You have to have that. You have to have good starts in the NCAA regional. And remember this, guys, under Butch Thompson, going into the regional in 2023, when Auburn was bounced in 2 games, where it stunningly lost to Penn in the first round, and then it lost to Southern Miss in the second round. And I was sitting in my office at Beard Eves Coliseum, which is right across the parking lot from Plainsman Park, when Penn and Southern Miss were playing in the championship game of that tournament at my ballpark, which really drove me crazy. But until that regional, Auburn was 9-0 in its last 3 regionals. 9-0 when it won its regional at North Carolina State, when it won its regional at Georgia Tech, and won its regional at home. We're 9-0 in regionals. Now, it got bounced in 2 games against Penn. That's a reminder of what can happen to you, even at home, in an NCAA regional. But this Auburn team has been very, very good of late in regionals, and it has won its last 2 super regionals. And this year it's hosting, hopefully, both of those. So I like Auburn's opportunity.
There you go.
So, Andy, look, man, thank you, and enjoy covering the Auburn Regional, and hopefully
it's going to be hard for them to keep me from just spending the night in the booth Thursday night.
And hopefully we can catch up with you next week to talk about Auburn hosting a super for the first time ever.
Well,
and if you make it to Omaha, I got some dining suggestions for you.
Oh, I've got a couple. I've got a couple.
And Andy, you are known for your touchdown Auburn when they score. Do you do anything for Auburn baseball like that?
Not really, no. I do not. I do not have a catchphrase for Auburn baseball, other than I hope I say that's an Auburn
Yes,
winner.
there you go. All right, man. Well, we will leave you with this. War Eagle, man. Let's go to the Super Regionals.
War Eagle, guys. Have a
Andy,
great
thank
day.
you, sir.
So, Heath, that is going to wrap up our interview there with Andy Burcham of the voice of the Auburn Tigers. Now, give us your thoughts on the Auburn Regional that starts on Friday.
Well, one thing I do want to add, anytime we talk to Andy, you leave with a smile. I don't know if
Yeah.
if that's one of his characteristics. Anytime you talk to Andy, whether it's in passing at the grocery store, in the press box, wherever, you leave smiling. Andy's he's such a fun guy. He really is.
Yeah.
And he loves his Auburn Tigers, but he knows what he's talking about. But get to the regional, Stephen. I don't think Central Connecticut State's going to put up much of a fight. I think that will be a double-digit win for Auburn. It's okay if they win by one. A win is a win. Doesn't matter how many. Stetson, NC State. The good news is I think that will be a close game. They'll kind of beat up on each other. They'll start getting into the bullpen early, both of those. So that will give Auburn the advantage. But if Stetson or NC State's able to get a lopsided victory, Auburn's in for a dogfight that second round game. Does Auburn have the guns to do this? Yes. Do they have the bats to do this? Yes. Do they have the coaching to do this? Absolutely yes. Butch Thompson is a genius. He is a phenomenal coach. So with all that, Stephen, I like Auburn to win this regional. I think they might have a small hiccup and can't finish it, and they have to play an extra game. But I do like Auburn to win this regional.
I do too. And Heath, how about this? The Chanticleers versus the Auburn Tigers for the right to go to the College World Series in Omaha. That would be dynamic.
Stephen, I can't help it. I don't do a good French accent, but I always have to pronounce it the Chanticleers.
Yeah.
My best French accent there.
Right.
The Chanticleers.
All right. So, guys, that is going to wrap up our preview of the Auburn Regional. Hope you guys have thoroughly enjoyed it with Andy Burcham, the voice of the Auburn Tigers. And hey, we are an SEC show, so we will leave you with this. War Eagle, baby! Let's go get a Super Regional bid right there back at home in Auburn.
I'm just thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner tonight.
Come on, Heath. Give us a War Eagle, man. We're an SEC show.
I will say this. I'm looking forward to Butch Thompson. I think Butch has got... It's going to be interesting to see how he coaches in this. I don't think it's going to be anything different, but I got a feeling Butch is going to show out a little bit there on the Plains this weekend.
All right, I'll do it for you. War Eagle. Let's go.
Stephen, I never cheer for any of the other schools. I'm not going to break my tradition. I don't want anyone to say I'm a homer.